Hi friends, one of the issues that has always intrigued me over the years has been the one on reincarnation and the soul finding a new body, taking forward the experiences and learnings from the past life. Why do we have this fascination about reincarnation? Is it just a passing curiosity about the possibility of being royalty or a famous personality in a past birth? Or is it just the ray of hope that we could perhaps do better in the next birth and overcome the shortcomings that we have in the current one? With reincarnation, there is always another opportunity. And surely it is a great improvement over the doctrine of eternal hell. Some of us may have heard stories about people remembering incidents from past lives. But other than hearsay, there does exist documented cases of individuals having crystal clear understanding and recollection of a life that they think they have lived in an earlier birth. We will look at 3 such intriguing cases of reincarnation in this video. So let's go. Carl Eden was born in December 1972 in Middlesbrough, England. His parents, James and Valerie Eden, were Christians, and neither of them believed in reincarnation. At the age of 3, Carl stated to his parents that he remembered being a German fighter pilot. His parents had never read any war-related stories to Carl, and given his age, it was unlikely that he would have read up stories. Over the years, Carl kept insisting the same story and said that he had crashed a plane through a window and followed this with a quick Nazi salute. Carl further mentioned that he was part of a bombing raid over England when he was shot down in 1942. Carl could also draw pictures of the plane with the German swastika and an eagle which had a striking resemblance to the German eagle emblem. By the age of 6, Carl could draw a detailed plan of the cockpit of the fighter plane and explain what the gauges were meant for. Carl told his parents that he lost his right leg in the crash, and strangely, he had a large birthmark on his groin. Even in his school plays, Carl would always play the character of a German soldier. In terms of physical appearance as well, Carl was very unlike his parents, who were both dark-haired, while Carl was a blonde. In 1942, a German fighter plane was indeed shot down near Middlesbrough, the place of Carl's birth. Bodies of 3 German soldiers were recovered, although none matched the description Carl gave of the severed right leg. However, something very strange happened which spins the story on its head. Carl Eden very unfortunately passed away at a young age of 23 in the year 1995. He was murdered by a co-worker, and exactly 2 years later in 1997, more wreckage of the 1942 shot down German fighter plane was found 4 miles off Middlesbrough. Here the story gets really weird. Another body of a German pilot was recovered, and eerily enough, the right leg of the body was severed. When they dug up details of the pilot, it was known that this 4th pilot was Heinrich Richter. But that's not all. When the photos of Heinrich and Carl were placed together, there was an uncanny resemblance between the 2 men. Carl's mother was stunned and believed that Carl was indeed Heinrich in his past birth. Among the many tales of reincarnation, the story of Carl is the most bizarre and poignant of all. Not only Carl had a violent death in this life, but he very strangely died within a few feet of where Heinrich came down in the plane many decades ago. Carl's parents had attended the funeral of Heinrich Richter, which took place after the body was found in the year 1997. and they said that standing at Heinrich's grave, they felt like burying Karl all over again. The reincarnation story of Anne Frank as Barbro Karlen is one of the most well-documented ones, possibly because both individuals are famous personalities in their own right. A lot of people interested in literary works would know who Anne Frank is. She was a young German Jewish girl who lived in hiding for a long time and then in Nazi captivity from 1942. She wrote her life experiences in a diary which was published after her death in 1945. Anne died in captivity. Her diary went on to become the second biggest selling book after the Bible. After many years in 1954, a girl by the name Barbro was born in Sweden. She too was a childhood writing prodigy and published her first book on poetry at a tender age of 12. The book became one of the best sellers in her native Sweden, and thereafter she wrote 9 more books. In her early life, she always dreamt of a past existence and on many occasions would wake up frightened and shaking. It is said that at the age of 2, she told her parents that her name is Anne and not Barbro. This was at a time when Anne Frank's famous diary was just about getting translated in various languages, but it had not got published in Sweden where Barbro lived. When Barbro later started school, she realized that Anne Frank was a famous writer. She then stopped sharing her experiences with others as she grew up. But her memories did not go away. She expressed herself in her writings, including some profound thoughts on where we come from and where we go, and all this as a mere 11-year-old. At the age of 10, when Barbro went on a Europe tour with her parents, Barbro astonishingly took her parents to Anne Frank's house without requiring any local guide. Although this was the first time she was visiting Amsterdam, she knew enough details about Anne's house to surprise her parents. But she experienced unspeakable fear as she entered the house. She mentioned about some pictures on the wall which weren't there, but Barbro insisted about their existence. When her mother checked with some of the workers there, it indeed turned out to be true. But the clinching piece of proof that Barbro was the reincarnation of Anne came when she met Anne's cousin, Buddy Elias. Buddy had heard about Barbro and showed keen interest to meet her. The meeting was arranged by the publisher of Barbro, who had by now become a well-known author with her book And the Wolves Howled. The publisher had not informed Barbro that Buddy was Anne's cousin. She was told he was just a fan. However, as they first saw each other, they both hugged and cried. Barbro instantly recognized Buddy and knew that he was someone she loved from a previous lifetime. When he was asked by the newspapers as to whether he believed Barbro to be Anne Frank reincarnated, Buddy answered in the affirmative. Till his death in 2015, Buddy kept in touch with Barbro. Jenny Cockell lived in Northamptonshire, England, and just before her 4th birthday, she started remembering some incidents of her earlier life as Mary Sutton in Ireland. Her most clear memory was that of her own death in 1932 as a 35-year-old after giving birth to her 8th child. She vividly remembers feeling sad and guilty at leaving her young children to fend for themselves. As Jenny grew, these feelings never left her. So one day she took a map and was instinctively drawn to a place called Malahide in Ireland. These feelings resurfaced when she got married and had kids of her own, and she decided to get in touch with Mary's children. Jenny herself was a skeptic and did not believe in reincarnation or any such psychic phenomena. She studied a detailed map of Malahide, and to her surprise, it was very similar to the one she had drawn as a child. Through church records, she could establish that Mary's children were left to relatives and some were placed at orphanages. Jenny was subjected to questioning by a BBC researcher before she was allowed to meet any of Mary's children, who were of course much older than Jenny now. Jenny was able to narrate various intricate details of the family home, including where pictures were placed and incidents relating to her children. After the interview with the BBC researcher, she was brought face to face with Sonny Sutton, Mary's son. In 1990, Sonny Sutton picked up the phone and listened to the most amazing story he had ever heard. And when he at last put the phone down, his wife said, "You look like you have seen a ghost." Sonny turned around to her and said, "I have been talking to my dead mother." While some of Mary's children were skeptical initially, they were convinced after Jenny gave minute details of Mary's life. One remarkable thing that Jenny was able to accomplish was to get all of Mary's children together who had over a period of 60 years drifted away from each other. She reunited a lost family, and on that day in Dublin, they came together and shared tears and memories, vowing never to be apart again. There are many similar cases of reincarnation which have been documented by various research institutes. Obviously, due to want of time, we cannot touch upon all of them. But I do hope the 3 stories that I narrated gives you food for thought. For those interested to know more about reincarnation, please find below a link in the description box of a detailed interview with Dr. Ian Stevenson from the University of Virginia and an authority with 40 years of research on the subject. I hope it was time well spent for you, and if so, please go ahead and slap the like button. Also consider subscribing to the channel for more such intriguing stories in the future. And yeah, thanks for watching.